We're doing today Daf Lamed Chesed with Al. We're talking about making an Eruv, and if he wants to put an Eruv, this mission we're talking about, he wants to make an Eruv for 2 days, because it's Yom Tov and Shabbos is following each other. Either Shabbos is before Yom Tov or Yom Tov is before Shabbos. Rabbi Lezer says, Yom Tov HaSomach LaShabbos, Yom Tov, which is next to Shabbos, Beinim Ufanel, Beinim Lachreo, whether the Yom Tov comes before Shabbos, whether the Yom Tov comes after Shabbos. So the person who maybe he wants to Yom Tov go in one direction of the city, and Shabbos he wants to go in a different direction. So therefore, he can place Ma'ariv Adam Shnei Eruvin. He can place Erev, the first Erev, the Erev which comes first. Let's say it's Erev Yom Tov comes first, then Yom Tov comes first, then Shabbos. So Erev Yom Tov, he will place both Eruvin in the two separate places, one in one direction, one in the other direction. The Omer, and he says, Eruvi Berishon leMizrach, uBesheni leMa'ariv. The first day, I want my Eruv to be in the Mizrach side. That Eruv should be the one which is where I'm centering my living area. Ubesheni, and the second day, which is going to be on a Shabbos, that should be leMa'ariv to the west. And therefore, the first day he'll be able to go to the east, and the second day he'll be able to go to the west at 4,000 amos. Or Berishon leMa'ariv, Ubesheni leMizrach. The other way around, that the first day he'll go to Ma'ariv, and the second day he'll go to Mizrach. The Kitzer, that both days is going to go 4,000 amos in opposite directions, and that's fine. It means one Erev will be for day one of the two Erevin will be for effective for day one, the other one will be the one which is effective for day two. Well, similarly also, if he wants, he can just place an Erev in one direction, and one day he will use the Erev. Therefore, they have 4,000 amos in one direction, and the second day he'll just be like a regular person of the city, and therefore he'll have 2,000 amos in all directions of the city. He won't lose the 2,000 amos which you lose because of placing the Erev. So on the second day he won't lose it. So Eruvi Berishin B'Sheni K'nei Erev. The first day the Erev should be effective, and therefore I'll have 4,000 amos in the direction of the Erev, but I'll lose the 2,000 amos in the other direction. B'Sheni, on the second day, Kivnei area, I should be the rest of the people in my city, and I should have 2,000 amos in all directions. Or the other way around, Eruvi B'Sheni or Berishin Kivnei area. The second day, he puts the Erev again. He puts the Erev before the first of the 2 days. Before the 2 days, he puts the Erev, and it's there. But the Erev should take effect on the second day, and on the first day, he should be the Erev should not be effective, and it should be like the rest of the city, like the rest of the people in the city. So that's possible, because each day is an individual day, a separate day, or as the Lashon is going to be in the Mishnah soon, it's Shtei Kedushas. One is the Kedusha of the Shabbos, one is the Kedusha of the Yom Tov, it's 2 separate dinim, and the Erev for each day is effective for 1 day, and so 1 day is it can have one Erev, and another day it can have another Erev. The Chacham, they disagree with that. They will say it's Kedusha Achas, that whichever way you do it, that is going to remain for both days. Either if you put an Erev, so either that you make the Erev effective for one direction, or if you did not make it effective the one direction, you made it, for instance, in both directions, so then the Erev is nothing. So if you made it in both directions, the Erev is nothing. There's no either you make it for both days, or you don't make an Erev at all. So if you will make an Erev for 2 separate, if you will make an Erev for both days, you make separate Erevin. So then it was like you didn't make an Erev, and you'll have a din like the people of the city. The Erev will not be effective. Ketzad Yaseh. So how should he do? So if the person, the Das Chachomim, the Chachomim in the Mishnah, they hold that both the Yontav and Shabbos, even though they're completely separate days, Yontav is a Yontav, Shabbos is a Shabbos, and it's two separate reasons why they're Kodesh, and why you can't walk in the Tchum. Nevertheless, Chachamim hold it's considered Kedusha Achas, that if, since they follow one another, there's no gap between the Yontav and the Shabbos, so therefore it's Kedusha Achas, so therefore you cannot have that in one day you have your tchum is in one direction, and the other day your tchum is in another direction. Whatever is for day one, that tchum, that will remain for the entire, that will remain for both days. You cannot change in the middle. So therefore, Ketzad Yaseh, if he wants to have an Erev, Melicha Berishain, he takes it, he takes the Erev and he brings it on the first day, he brings it to where he wants, the direction where he wants to place the Erev. And Melicha Berisha doesn't mean he takes it himself, actually. Melicha means through a shliach, because if he walks there himself, then the actual act of walking there and being there bein hashmoshes, so that itself is, without the food, is kind of the Erev. So therefore, if a person, you can be ma'arav either with food, or you can also make an Erev by actually staying in that place, bein hashmoshes. So therefore, when it says melicha berishin, that you bring the food there, so when he's talking about bringing the food, so that means he didn't actually go personally, but he asked the shliach to bring the food there. So melicha berishin, so the shliach brings the food there. And the problem is that that we want the food to be there, both bein hashmoshes. Both bein hashmoshes, it has to be there. Once it's there, bein hashmoshes, then it doesn't matter what happens to it. But he doesn't. He doesn't. He's afraid. He's afraid if he leaves it there, he doesn't have a safe place where to put it. So he doesn't have a safe place where to put it. So if he leaves it there, it might disappear, and it won't be there for the second bein hashmoshes. He must make sure the food is there for the second bein hashmoshes. And besides the fact that he doesn't want to bring, he doesn't want to bring new food bein hashmoshes there as well. Because what happens if it disappears? You can bring a different food bein hashmoshes. So bringing a different food, that you're not allowed to make a new erev. To make a new erev on Yom Tov for Shabbos, let's say, even if it's possible to carry. So to make a new erev from Yom Tov and Shabbos, you cannot do that. It must be you can make an erev for Shabbos from before Yom Tov, but Yom Tov you're not allowed to put an erev there for Yom Tov for Shabbos. So, but if it's the same erev, the same food, then it's fine, as long as it's not new food. So therefore, he's going to have to. He needs the same food to be there first bein hashmoshes, and he needs the same food to be there for the second bein hashmoshes. So and it doesn't have a safe place. So melicha berishin. So get somebody to bring it at the first day. The person stays till after bein hashmoshes. When night when that takes it, brings it back, because with bein hashmoshes that's fine. Then ubolo b'sheni, and then it comes the second day, the second bein hashmoshes. The person himself comes there, and again he stays there. He stays there till it becomes dark, and then he can eat it, because it or and then he can come, whatever he wants. That he has gained from walking there, the fact that somebody went there the first day, that he gained by that, and also mistake be'eruve, that he didn't have to use two erevs. He saved doing another erev. But just like I mentioned, that there is a din. There's different reasons for that din, but there is a din that if, for instance, let's say I never made an erev, I just want to make an erev Yom Tov. I decided Yom Tov I'll make an erev for the upcoming Shabbos. So I go there and I bring it. So you can't do it. You can't make an erev Yom Tov for Shabbos. There's a few reasons for that. So the nechal berishin. What happens if the he left it there, whatever, and the erev was eaten up on the first day. So when it comes to ben hashmoshes of the second day, it's not there. So then, it was nechal berishin, eruv elishin, ve'en eruv elisheni. If it was eaten up the first day, so let's say whatever it was, he knows on the first day that the erev is gone. He knows the erev is gone, so he can still the first day walk it and use the erev. But on the second day, he will not have an erev, in eruv elisheni. So the fact that he made an erev for the first day does not help, and it's not a good enough erev for the second day. Yes, so it's interesting. Even though I mentioned before, I mentioned before that this is what the Gemara speaks all about it. Even though it's a kedusha achas, even though it's a chachamim, they hold of kedusha achas that the Shabbos the Yom Tov is like one kedusha. Nevertheless, you still need to have the erev there on the second day. That's what this which is it's a kasha on the chachamim. The Gemara will speak about. Rabbi Lezer says, see, so Rabbi Lezer says, you see, you told me that if the erev is eaten up and it's not there for the second day, so then it's not a good erev. Why is it not a good erev? You chacham hold that if you chacham hold that you can't make an erev in different directions, that it has to be both days has to be the same in the same direction. You can't have the direction of the erev on the first day in one direction and the second day in another direction. So why? Because you hold kedusha achas. But you yourself seem to agree now over here with this din. So you seem to agree that that if the erev is not there for the second day, the second day he can't have that tchum and walk in that direction. So it's even though the erev was effective. So why does it not last for the second day, even though the food is gone? It was there during the first ben hashmoshes. So you yourself, we can see that you yourself agree that there's two kedushas, and it's two separate. If it's two kedushas, so therefore the Lezer is going back to his point that you should be able to make each day in the erev in a separate direction. So, okay, so then says the Gemara, the ruach achas. The Gemara is going to question because there seems to be a repetition in the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, the Chacham Oimrim, it's in the middle of the Mishnah, when they disagree with Rebbe Lezer, they say, either you can't make an Erev every day in a different direction. You can only make it one direction. Then the Chacham add another line and they say, either you make it for both days or not at all. Now, it seems to be a repetition. So that's the insight. The ruach achas, what does it mean ruach achas? In one direction. In one direction for what? For both days. So the Chachama said in the first line, they said you can only have it in one direction, and that erev is going to be for both days. So it's the shnei yomim. And then with the second line, they said you can only the erev has to be made l'shnei yomim. The shnei yomim ruach achas means that both days are in the same direction. You can't. So you have if the erev is so Hanukkah so it's just repeating the kitzur. You're repeating the you're repeating the halacha twice. So why the Chacham repeating the halacha twice? So the Gemara says, basically the Gemara's answer is going to be that the second line is giving the reason of the first line. The first line they said the din, and there was a bit of a discussion, and they said the halacha because Rebbe Lezer started off by saying you can have one day in one direction and not one day in another direction, and the Chacham said no, it can only be in one direction, and then that's the first line. And the second line is because the same erev works for both days. You cannot have the same erev works for both days, or it doesn't work at all. And so that's the second line is the reason of the first line. Let's do it inside. So the Gemara says, the Chacham said to Rabbi Lezer this. In other words, after they said sorry, this goes, this was a discussion after they said no. He said you can have in both directions. You can make the Erev. And that's what Rabbi Lezer said. Chacham said no, you can only have it in one direction for both days. So they use the words, you can only have one direction. And then they explain themselves. Why can only have that one direction? He had to make the do you not agree? Don't you agree that in one day you can't have half day you're going in the direction of Tzofan and half day you're going in another direction? He said yes, he agreed. So they said no. If in one day you can't have half a day in one direction is your tchum, the other day the other direction is tchum. Similarly, also you can't have 2 days. You can't go in different direction. It has to be in the same direction. And so the last piece, that's the second line. So in other words, this is the answer to the question, how come I repeat themselves? So he says, because they were trying to explain that din, and this is, so the din which he said you can make it one way and the other way, and he said only one way. And then they explain themselves because you can't have change in the middle of the 2 days, you can't change. It's one unit, both days are one unit, and you can't change. Right. So Rebbe Lazar. So what's the reason of Rebbe Lazar? So he says you have to have you see, you can't change in the middle. You can't change the area in the middle. So the Gemara says it's no comparison. If it's one day, one kedusha, Shabbos. So this Shabbos, where are you? The whole Shabbos, this Yom Tov, where are you? This Yom Tov, you're either here, living here, or you're living there. So it's kedusha. You can't change the middle of Yom Tov. Where are you living Yom Tov? It's two separate kedushas, two days. One is a Shabbos, one is a Yom Tov. So therefore, you can have one day in one direction, one day in another direction. This is two different mitzvahs. It's two different. This is the mitzvah of Yom Tov. This is the mitzvah of Shabbos. It's two different mitzvahs. It's basic kedushas. And now he is going to explain the last part of the Mishnah, which I said a bit of it in the Mishnah. I said it. This is last part. When you have the last part of the Mishnah, it says Eruvin nechel berishon Eruvin l'rishon bein Eruvin l'sheni. Amar Elazar moedem atam l'sheni shtei kedushas. So the Gemara is explaining this discussion, this as well. It says this was part of the argument of the Rebbe Lezer against Chacham. That's the Gemara is giving back the continuation, how the flow of the Mishnah. How does the flow of the Mishnah work? You have Rebbe Lezer explains his opinion, then Chacham explains his opinion. Then you have something, some halacha comes in, and then Rebbe Lezer brings a proof. So the Gemara says that really it was a discussion, and therefore after they gave their opinion, Rebbe Lezer responded, and therefore the way the Gemara explains that Nechal Eruv Berishan is actually that line. Nechal Eruv Berishan, Eruv Berishan is part of the response of Rebbe Lezer. So the Gemara says, let's go inside. Om Rebbe Lezer, don't you agree with me? She'im Erev Berago B'Yom Rishon, Ma'arev Berago B'Yom Sheni. Do you not agree that these words don't say in the Mishnah, but the next words do say in the Mishnah? So don't you agree that if a person went on the first day, he has to go again on the second day to make the Erev? Erev Berago was what I mentioned during the Mishnah. I mentioned that because you don't actually have to put food for an Erev. You can also go stay there, and you stay there Ben Hashmashas. You stay there Ben Hashmashas. That also is kaveya that this is your place where you're staying on Shabbos. So don't you agree that if the person Erev Berago who went to stay there Ben Hashmashas on the first day, whether it's a Shabbos or Yom Tov, then you still have to go the second day. You still have to go the second day. And do you not agree with me? Which that's the line which is do have in the Mishnah, that if he put an Erev there, he placed an Erev, and it was beaten up and wasn't, and therefore the Ben Hashmashas of the second day it's not there. He can't the second day he can't go outside the Tchum because the Erev is not effective the second day. So do you not agree with that? They said yes, we do agree. So halai beit kedusha saying, so that shows that it's two kedushas, the kitzur. So he's proving to them that there is two kedushas, and therefore you have to have an Erev at both the bein hashmashas, the first day and the second day. No, if it's based two kedushas, so therefore you can have one in one direction, one the other direction. So the Gemara says takel. So what's the reason the Rabbanon? That they say that you cannot have, what's the reason the Rabbanon? They say you cannot do in both directions. Each day to have in a different direction. So the Gemara says, they have a soft. And therefore, they always go l'chumra. So they're not sure if it's one kedusha or two kedushas. So therefore, you have to always make it in one direction. You can't make it in a different direction, because if you make it in a different direction, so then if you make it in a different direction, then maybe it's one kedusha. Maybe it's no good. So they have a suffix. So so therefore, So therefore it's a suffix. So therefore, since the suffix, they'll say you can't make it in both directions. But they'll also tell you, even if you made it in one direction, you have to do it twice. Because maybe that when you did it the first day, it's not enough for the second day. So you have to call the second day and make sure there's an Eruv there the second day as well. So they go, that you can only make it in one direction, but also you have to make sure that the Eruv is there both days. Let me just say something. That in the Mishnah it says either you make it in either you make it either you make it either you make it in one direction, or you don't have an Erev at all. So you don't have an Erev at all. That's what the Mishnah says. Now, if you don't have an Erev at all, I see in Tosfos that Tosfos says that if he did it in both directions, he will actually end up is worse than not having an Erev at all. It's worse than not having an Erev. Tosfos says that if he does it in both directions, so then he doesn't know where his Erev is. And since he doesn't know where his Erev is, he can't walk out of his Daladanas, which means he can't walk out of his city. So again, according to Tosfos, Alib the Chachomim, that they have a suffix, whether it's Kedusha Achas or Beis Kedusha. So therefore, if he did actually make two Eruvin in two different directions, so we don't know whether which Eruv is the which we don't know. Is it a good Eruv in both directions, or it's not a good Eruv? So that means that he won't be able to move out of his Daladamas, and the whole city is like Daladamas, Seder. Yeah, right. So he's lost the Tchum in both directions. He can't even go the 2,000 Amos, which usually he can go. Although in the Rishonim I saw a different opinion, that even though they agree with Tosfos that if he's somewhere not in his own city, if he's not in his own city, then it's true, he will just have to stay in his Daldanas. But if the person is in his city, they say that if the person always, his mind is that if my area is not effective, then I shouldn't lose of what my city is. So they say that if they agree with what Tosfos is saying, which that if you're not in your own city, if you're not in your own city, then you just have the Daladamas. But if you're in the city, if you actually Shabbos or Yom Tov, you're in the city itself. So, and if your Erev doesn't take effect, so then the person's there is that if his Erev doesn't take effect, then he should be like the cities. Therefore, he will have the ability to walk like a tchum, like a person in the city. Okay. The landing Gemara brings, must be a part of some brisa. Omrele Reb Lezer. This must be a part of a brisa. Now, Omrele Reb Lezer, etc. Lezer, yeah, Chacham etc. Lezer, yeah, the Moedah She'em Arv B'Tchil Yom Shabbos. Don't you agree that you can't make an Erev from Yom Tov for Shabbos. That means you can't go Yom Tov. Say Yom Tov, I'm in the city, I'm fine with the Tchum. Shabbos, I want to go somewhere. So I'll go Yom Tov and put the Erev in a certain place. So don't you agree that you're not allowed to do that? Well, yes. Yes, true. You're not allowed to. You can't make a Yom Tov, you can't make an Erev. So it says, so they said to him, so it proves one Kedusha. So if you can't, why can't you Yom Tov make, you're not allowed to, the halacha is, you're not allowed to make Yom Tov an Erev for Shabbos. Why not? So that proves that's Kedusha Achas, because you have to make it either Erev, if you have the Shabbos following the Yom Tov, either you make it Erev Yom Tov for both days. But if in the middle, you can't make it in the middle of the other. Just like you can't make it in the middle of Shabbos Erev, you can't make it in the middle of, between Yom Tov and Shabbos, it's Kedusha Achas. That's why you can't make an Erev on Yom Tov for Shabbos. So Rebbe Lezer, so Kasher Rebbe Lezer, that taka, why you're not allowed to make Erev from Yom Tov and Shabbos? If he holds it's two separate Kedushas. So Yom Tov should be able to make a for Shabbos. So the Gemara says, Hasa Mishum Hachon. There is an Isser Hachon. So Rebbe Lezer, he holds the opinion that there is an Isser of Hachona. Hachona means that you're not allowed to prepare from Yom Tov to after Yom Tov. And we'll see in the other side. The Gemara brings a pasuk. You learned that from the pasuk. The Kitzer. So according to Das Rebbe Lezer, that the reason why you can't make because you're preparing for Yom Tov Shabbos. That's why you can't. But the MS is two separate dishes. You just can't prepare. So therefore, you have to prepare it from Erev Yom Tov. Tana Rabbanon. We learned the Bryce. Erev Beranglo b'Yom Rishon, Ma'ar Beranglo b'Yom Sheni. If you walk b'Yom Rishon and you made the Erev not with food, but by being there b'Yom Rishon, Ma'ar Beranglo b'Yom Sheni. It's you can still make the Erev b'Yom Sheni, be walking there, and that there's no issue of achana over here. I mean, we just now learned the yeah. That's so Erev Arab Rishon, Arab Rishon. If you made the Erev b'Yom Rishon, so you make another Erev, but you have to go again b'Yom Sheni. Why? Because it's two kedushas. It's two kedushas. So even though you made the Erev b'Yom Rishon for the first day, since it's two kedushas, so you have to make another. So therefore, you have to make another one b'Yom Sheni. The same thing also. Nechel Eruvin b'Yom Rishon, ein yotzel b'Yom Sheni. If the Erev was eaten up, put an Erev that was eaten up, so that's not good for the second day. You can't use it. Why? Because Divrei Rabbi, who's the Rabbi? So Rabbi is clear. He says that it's two kedushas. Yeah, in the Mishnah we had the machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and the Chachamim, and Rabbi Lezer said it's two kedushas. The Chachamim were soft. That's okay. Right here now here. So Rabbi he holds it's two kedushas, and Rabbi Yehuda says Harei de Chamar Gon. Rabbi Yehuda says it's Chamar Gon, that he is that's a soft. So Rabbi Yehuda says that it's a suffix whether the second day Erev is an Erev or not. So if the Erev was eaten up on the first day, so it's a suffix whether it's an Erev or not, and therefore since it's a suffix, he is really stuck, and he's really stuck, and he can't go in any direction because we don't know. Maybe it is a good Erev, maybe it's kedusha achas, maybe it's kedusha achas. Therefore, if the Erev was on the first day, it's good for the second day as well, and therefore, you've lost in the other direction. You've lost your space in the other direction because you can only go in one direction, not the other direction. Or maybe that it's shtei kedushas, and therefore it's shtei kedushas. So then you have maybe it's shtei kedushas. So then you can then you can walk in both directions again. Let me just say it a bit better. According to Rabbi Huda, it's a suffix. He's a suffix what is dush achat sheikh. So therefore, maybe it is an erev, and therefore he has 4,000 amos in one direction, but he's lost the 2,000 amos in the other direction. But maybe it's not a good erev. So therefore, if it's not a good erev, that means he does not have the 4,000 amos in one direction. So we don't know whether he has. We don't know it's a suffix in the other direction, but not the direction of the erev. We don't know whether he has 2,000 amos, not in the direction of the erev. We don't know whether he has 2,000 amos, and also we don't know whether he has the direction of the erev, whether he has 4,000 amos. So you're left only with 2,000 amos in one direction. That is so it's because of the suffix. So Buddha says it's a suffix, but it's or and already mentioned before in Tosfos gave to the suffix, and according to the Rishonim who say that depends whether in the city or not, how the suffix plays out. There's two ways of how it plays out, but the main point is that it's a suffix where the gush akar shekes. Shimon Gamliel, Reb Shmuel b'nei Shebichem Break Omen, Ira b'Ragla B'Rishon, Ema Arab Ragla Shem. You made the area of the first day, say there. You walk there, you don't have to go again the second day, and the Sheni, Nechel Rubi and Rishon YotzaOl B'Shem. If you put the area there, you didn't walk, but you put the area there and it was eaten up, then you can. It's good enough for the second day as well. You don't. It doesn't matter. It's not the Ben Shmosh of the second day. So the kids of they hold it's one kedusha. So Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Shlomo they hold it's one kedusha. So Rabbi holds two kedushas. Rabbi Huda is a suffix, and Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shmuel, they say it's one kedusha. Amar Rav said halacha k'dalad kenim halala. There's dalad kenim who hold that it's kedusha achas, and that's the halacha. The halacha is it's kedusha achas like dalad kenim. V'aliba the Rebbe Lozer, and they all these dalad kenim they go like Rebbe Lozer. What was that? 1 second. What did I say? Yeah. Okay. The ones we'll leave that for tomorrow. The Amarav will leave for tomorrow.